The date is 1989. The Cold War is ending and the world looks ahead to a brighter future. But history could have easily gone a very different way. Back in 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev became the new General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. But his attempts at reforming the ailing USSR brought him on a collision course with the most orthodox, Stalinist wing of the party. What if history had taken another patch then? What if Gorbachev and his reformist allies were removed from power in a ruthless palace coup in April 1987? Replacing them by a troika representing the party, the KGB, and the army. The old guard brought the Soviet Union back to heel, and any trace of political overture quickly forgotten. Unrest in the Baltic states and Armenia was crushed without remorse. Even neutral Finland, though not a Soviet state, was brought back in line, in a covert move reminiscent of President Dubček's forced resignation after the Prague Spring of 1968. The so-called Helsinki coup of 1987 was the trigger of a further worsening and renewed tension between the West and East. An outraged U.S. President Ronald Reagan initiates a second phase of the so-called New Cold War he devised in the early 80s. An even more aggressive posturing in Western Europe is instigated, which includes the funding of counterinsurgencies and defense armament deals with old and new allies alike. Western economic sanctions and rising military expenditures forced the Soviet Union into ever worse trade deals, inflating its already crippling debts as well as food shortages throughout its zone of influence. When a larger-than-ever version of NATO's Reforger exercise was announced for September 1989, the Troika paranoidly believed it to be an elaborate smokescreen for a land conflict in Western Europe. The Soviet Union sees no other recourse but war. Under cover of its own massive exercise in East Germany announced for the end of June, Zapad 89, the Warsaw Pact mobilizes its forces. While standing troops are brought to full combat readiness, reserves are only moderately recalled to avoid NATO detection. Suddenly, June 20th sees the withdrawal of most East German Grenztruppen. Achieving strategic surprise, Soviet troops break through Germany's inner border. A warning order is issued.